What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. As always, this episode is brought to you by Off the Record. We love Off the Record. And boy, do we have some news for you. Coming soon, we're going to be phasing out the code on the app. Now, it's still good for the next few months, but for the second half of 2025, it's going to be offtherecord.com/TST only. But for now, if you want to sign up for Off the Record, if you get a moving violation of any kind in any state, you want to check with Off the Record before making any move. Off the Record's network of attorneys in almost every jurisdiction in the U.S. can help fight those tickets, right? Can help get points off your record, keep them off your record. And look, those points can cause all kinds of problems later in life. You don't want them. Get Off the Record now. All you have to do is send in a photo of that ticket, describe the incident in your words, and Off the Record's team goes to work. They got you covered. So go to offtherecord.com/TST if you get a moving violation, and they are here to help. We've got 10% off all legal services booked through Off the Record with our code at offtherecord.com/TST. On this episode of the podcast, Zach has returned from Ascari in Spain and gives us his review of the Maserati MC20 GT2 Stradale. While he was there, I was in Austin driving a GR Corolla automatic, scouting some of Texas's finest driving roads, and it was gonna go well, but it kind of didn't. We also talk about how brake pads and tires could potentially be worse for the environment than even gasoline or potentially diesel. And we have some phenomenal questions, so many questions from the Patreon. We got a lot to talk about today. Let's get to it on the Smoking Tire Podcast.
And it didn't work very
Here's
well.
how you know your shit is going to stop working. If you get a pop-up that says, latest update has been installed, now with whatever it's called, AI, you go, oh shit, they are now spying on me everywhere.
Water with AI.
Fuck me. You know what I did today, Zach? I denied
There we go.
advertising dollars. Even in this fucking economy, I denied advertising dollars to an AI pendant, an AI assistant that you wear around your fucking neck like it's a fucking Abbott Kinney gemstone.
Right.
Like it's a crystal.
a crystal.
Like it's a Sedona crystal, except it listens to everything you fucking say and probably your heartbeat.
Why do you want that?
I don't know.
So it's a microphone.
I responded to our agency people who were very kind and you know, they're doing their job. And I said, new rule, blanket anything that contains the letters AI is just don't even include me in the email.
Yeah,
blanket
it's just
no.
in too many things.
Fuck.
It's in Apples now. It's just, it can fix anything. But that's just a microphone with an app that probably piggybacks to Siri.
Yeah, it's just like or it just piggybacks to some fucking dude in India typing shit into ChatGPT.
Furiously Googling the things you're wondering about as you walk down the street. Yeah. You're just like, wow, I wonder where that how long that building's been there. And the guy's like, oh, where are they? Oh my God, I'm going to get fired.
Yeah, so hard no.
Do you think they would listen to stoner conversations and also Google? Because you know, if you're just like, do you ever wonder, like, are snakes jealous that they can't fly? And this person's like, how do I even research this?
You just described what it's like to be Jamie. Lovely guy.
So true.
Far out of his element.
Who could be in the element?
I don't know.
No one's qualified.
Exists.
You need 8 people to be in that element.
Yeah. And they all need to be on a Daniel Dale level.
Who's Daniel Dale?
Oh, he was the guy who was such a good fact checker on Twitter that he became the real-time fact checker on like CNN during the debates.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I know like half the people in the audience are like, no, CNN and fact check. It's like, no, but this dude is like a historian and would like real-time fact check both candidates on television during the debates. That is a talented individual.
Yeah, so he's out of a job now. So he's
he's
unemployed.
Since facts don't mean anything anymore. Yeah. Anyone who made their living on facts is in some real deep shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
TST reading list, must read. It's by a former Republican. Tom Nichols called "The Death of Expertise." He wrote it in like 2016 or 17, but it's worth going back to read now.
Is it fun? Is it like a lighthearted?
Real fun.
Okay.
Makes you feel very confident about our society as a whole. But it's a fucking serious read, and it's not by one of those fucking commies that I like to read either. It's by a Republican.
That is a good qualifier.
Yeah, some people don't want to read anything I recommend because it's by some fucking leftist. But this one's by a Republican.
You got to read books from Goebbels and be like, even he said that this is a problem.
Yeah. Fucking Mao was like, Farrah, chill it with the reading lists. Yeah.
Too far.
Okay, you were gone all week. Cars. Let's do cars. You were gone all week. You went to Spain.
Yes.
To Ascari.
Indeed.
How great is Ascari?
It's pretty awesome. It is stunning.
That would be a good home track.
Hard to, I had about 6 laps to try to, quote, memorize it, and all the walls are green, and all the grass is green, and all the trees are green. So
it's the European version of Long Beach.
I think Long Beach, you could at least go, okay, I turned right at that billboard.
No, when we do tracks in America, like Long Beach, it's gray on gray. The Jersey barriers and stuff, you just can't see.
That's true.
I tried to make a joke, it didn't work. Back to his.
There's just not that many markers. Quick read. So, but it's beautiful. I mean, what an amazing, amazing place. So I went to drive the new Maserati MC20 GT2 Stradale. Stradale means road going in Italian.
In this photo you've got, which is sort of from the passenger side, looking front 3/4, it looks very Pagani-ish. Actually, it looks like they're doing a little bit of a Wyra thing here.
A little till you see. I mean, the front and everything's more restrained than Pagani for sure. This color was called powder nude, I think, and in dim early morning light, it looked just kind of pinkish. But actually, as the sun came out, it looks pretty rad. Yeah. But I couldn't stop saying power nude, so it just.
That'll be someone will get that custom plate, The Montana one will be taken instantly, but then California,
you'll see it here
subsequently. Yeah. I love the color. I'm 100%, as you could probably guess.
This makes sense.
This color has my name written all over it.
Yeah,
it goes from gold to pink. And it's sort of a rosé most of the time, right?
Yeah, it is very much a rosé, wine rosé color. Do I have another picture? I don't. I'll find
people in your comments asked if it was the same color as my car. It's much more gold.
It is definitely more gold, with a hint more brown also, I would say.
My car is only a tiny little bit gold and only in the right light.
Yeah, yours is definitely more pink.
Yeah.
So this car is the road version of their race car, which is the race car is based on the road car of the MC20.
Yes, it's the road version of the race version of the road
version.
Got that?
100% precisely accurate. So they do a lot of aero work to it. It's got more carbon fiber. It's got a carbon hood and carbon roof, a giant wing on it. Downforce is tripled, but not till 184 miles per hour, of course.
Yeah, but it's linear, so it's more all the time.
It is more all the time, and it's more efficient. There's better cooling for the brakes. The big thing, I was hoping the big thing would be that the brakes are improved. They're by Brembo now. They're bigger and thicker, and they're carbon ceramic.
Brakes was the weak point of the street car.
Exactly.
And it's not weak on the street. It's weak when you start doing repeated hard stops on the track. That's where it was weak.
Yeah, it was also kind of weak in the canyons, I think. I went back and I watched our video.
Yeah.
And just the deceleration rate felt less than what we expected based on the parts and the cost of the car.
Fair.
Now, I think at the time when we reviewed the car, we thought it was 3,300 pounds because that's what they told us it was.
Yeah.
Car and Driver weighed it, and it's 3,700. That's the regular MC20. So it also may have just been heavier than we thought.
Right.
So it won't slow down as quickly as you think. So that's one of the things they said that they addressed on this car.
We also, if I recall correctly, made the mistake of driving a CT5 Blackwing to the MC20 launch, which is a car that has some of the best brakes of any car on sale at any price.
True.
And if you want to drive a new supercar and really see if it's any good or not, drive there in a Blackwing, because a Blackwing will do what almost any mid-tier supercar will do. You have to go pretty fast to beat a Blackwing.
They make almost the same power, too. Because the regular MC20 was like 621 horsepower.
Yeah.
Blackwing is
668.
So more.
Yeah.
Well, they did turn the power up on this one by 10.
Yes.
So 631. So ultimately, it's supposed to be like a more focused car. They changed the steering a little bit. The springs are only 9% stiffer. The dampers are the same. I already talked about aero, et cetera, et cetera. So the good news is that you didn't lose the really good ride that the street car had, because I think the street car is fantastic.
Did have a good ride.
Right? Good ride, performed well enough, but comfortable, not overly sprung like a lot of cars today. And the steering is still very good as it was in the old car. The looks, at first when I saw it, I thought it was like two clashing design languages of angles and round, but it actually grew on me a lot throughout the day. I think it looks pretty awesome on the road with very few exceptions.
Does look race car.
Looks very race car.
It looks a lot race car.
The shifts got a little bit better. When we drove the regular car in our video, the downshifts were a little bit, like a little slow, and they kind of upset the chassis. This doesn't do that. If you're like at full brake, downshifting in the right mode, it's pretty quick.
Yeah, it isn't the Tremec. It's the Tremec DCT.
Yeah.
That's why that was weird, because like in the Corvette, it didn't do that.
Right.
I was like, in the GT500, it didn't do that.
Exactly.
Like, why is it doing it in this car?
I don't know. And actually in this car, it seems to change a lot depending on your speed, your steering input, your throttle, and your mode. But it can all be... There were plenty of times on the track where I was like, it did not upset me at all.
Yeah.
And there's like 4 new driving modes. If you get the Performance Plus pack, you get Evo mode and then 4 submenus of Evo, which basically turn your traction control down. But all the shifting and stuff is really good. The problem with this car is that the regular MC20 exists, because this actually didn't fix the brakes, in my opinion. It still feels like it slows down too slowly.
Jethro said the same thing.
We were on the launch together, so we would get out of the car from different cars and be like, hey, come over here for a second. I have a question. And so, like, on the track, they were having us lift before braking in some places, which was either they're trying to protect themselves. I don't think the instructors knew the level of driver in my wave, and I'm not saying I was definitely probably the least experienced person, because Jethro's there, Casey Caldwell's there, Chris Perkins is there, like, at least 2 of the people there, all 3 of them have racing licenses. Yeah. Jethro's Jethro. The instructors were like grabbing the steering wheel at some point. But the biggest thing was like, why are we lifting when they have these new brakes? Shouldn't we be demonstrating, and it's not a hot day, shouldn't we be demonstrating that these brakes can uphold the thermal load? Because they talked to us about these new ducts and all this stuff. So that was a little weird. And then with the brakes, you had to go really deep into the pedal. I mean, they kind of have a long stroke pedal anyway. I remember that last time.
They had the regular car had a long pedal.
Versus, I mean, McLaren and Porsche, I think they kind of put the friction point is much higher. Like
McLaren's very unique. Their Porsche and Ferrari have similar brakes, but McLaren has that they want the brake to pedal to almost feel like it's not power assisted.
Yes.
You have to hit it really hard.
It's very stiff.
Yeah, it's meant for left foot. It's really good if you like left foot braking. It's the best brakes ever.
And I would say that the pedal doesn't have to travel that far. It's like
it's a short
1 inch of travel, let's just for random math, is 3 inches of caliper travel. I know they don't move that far. This is like the inverse. Like 3 inches of pedal travel is 1 inch of caliper pressure, or 1 of caliper pressure. And even when I got further and further into the pedal, I was like, I wish I was slowing down more than I am. And then a lot of the good sounds the other car had. The street car, or the regular car, had a lot of cool turbo stuff, wastegate stuff. That's mostly gone if the windows are up, and all you hear is kind of a mechanical whir, which is really strange. I don't know how that changed, but a lot of the different, let's say the different instruments are gone.
Less turbo.
Yeah.
Why would you hear less turbo?
I don't know. It could be new.
Is there like a different intake design? Like, do they change the air intake of the car? Does it use the same intakes as stock?
I don't recall that being in the press release. I know they changed.
Because usually that whooshing noise, you're hearing it almost like backwards.
Right. You only heard that if you put the windows down, then those huge intakes, like, then you hear some stuff. But with the windows up, it's like you went from having 5 instruments in your orchestra to 1.
Weird.
And it's just like mechanical spin. And then on the outside, it's real quiet. I mean, we're at the racetrack. People are going flat out where they can. And I think the distance was probably 300 feet from where I was standing to the car at full clip, 3rd gear. And I'm telling you, it was like Camry noise.
Do you think Guys, got to take a quick break because today we're brought to you by TrueWork. I love the TrueWork clothes they sent me. They are hell-bent on creating the most technical, high-performance workwear in the world. Think about those advanced fabrics that you see from like some of those nice like California workout brands with the sky-high prices. Apply that to workwear. Right? The TrueWork story begins in the Colorado mountains where trade workers knew there had to be a better solution than wet, heavy gear that was weighing him down. And I get it. After trying on the pants, after trying on the hoodie they sent me, I would love to spend a day outdoors wearing these products. The TrueWork stuff is engineered for maximum comfort, protection, and efficiency with minimum bulk and extra weight. The hoodie they sent me is so soft and stretchy. I wore it on my flight to Austin last week, and it was great. The pockets were great. The zip pockets kept my wallet, my phone from falling out, and the sweat-wicking soft-shell pants are awesome in this winter weather we're having in California. It's very wet outside. TrueWork has over 50,000 five-star reviews and countless stories from trade pros in every state and every job across the country. Upgrade to TrueWork for a major change in the way you work. TrueWork helps you be your best when your best matters most. So check out the full lineup and get 15% off your first order at truework.com/tire. That's 15% off at truewerk.com/tire. And now back to the show. Do you think that they might, because when I was just at the GT3 launch, they made a very big deal about the new emissions and all these regulations for 20. Do you think Maserati maybe snuck some of that stuff into this model, like, and just like didn't tell you?
Well, I actually sat next to an engineer at dinner when the day I got there, but someone else was leaving, so they had driven the car, and they had the same complaint. Why is it so quiet? And yeah, the guy said it's emissions, it's noise regulations in the EU, which are really strict. It's those things combined, and now they do offer a titanium track exhaust. Sure. That's like, track only, but...
And will the U.S. cars have the same exhaust, or are they going to take out the DPFs?
I actually didn't ask that
DPF
question.
or whatever it's called.
I guess they might have a different exhaust.
It might be a different U.S. exhaust.
Maybe it's different.
We had to press Porsche like for hours.
To see if it was going to get a different one?
Yeah, to see if the ADAS stuff was going to come over and to see if the U.S. exhaust was going to be different.
I didn't ask that question. I should follow up with that. They did say like the titanium. Well, this exhaust is titanium, but there's the better one that should be louder because track car should be louder.
Of course, it should be Italian track supercar.
Yeah. And like,
of course, it should be loud.
The bones of this thing are good. The chassis is super stiff. The ride is good. The handling feels neutral. The steering ratio is good. It feels really linear. There's not like a huge difference from comfort to track in terms of steering weight. They don't add a bunch of heavy shit. They don't like fake it. It's fake steering feel. But it just feels like they added all these pieces and you didn't actually get anything that's really much better than the street car. But you did add almost $100,000.
That's hilarious.
At the price.
That's like tuning a car in high school. It's like you do a bunch of mods to your high school car and it like just doesn't make it go any faster. It probably does go faster. I bet it does. At the Nürburgring or whatever.
Well, on their test track, it's like 5 seconds. I mean, it is way faster. I think the tires are stickier. So the result is good, and their racing results are good. They won their season of it's like Fanatec GT2 series, but. I just found myself going, if I'm spending $300,000 on a road legal track oriented vehicle, the competition's really stiff. I mean, you can get a good McLaren, you can get an Artura, you can get a GT3. Yeah, like that's the one, right? Yeah, I mean, that doesn't have these little issues.
$300,000. You're knocking on the door of a 750S,
right?
Like, and close. That's not even, there's no question.
And that has 120 more horsepower.
And forget the horsepower. It's a much crazier car.
I think you get a better visceral experience because that's what this was kind of lacking in terms of the sound wasn't there, the braking wasn't there. It feels big. It feels kind of heavy. So you're just, like the bones of it are really good, but I don't know. The
That's
execution
such a
of it
bummer
is just, yeah.
because the regular one is actually a better street car than a lot of the other like supercars.
Totally.
Like I'd rather drive an MC20 around LA for a week than a 296.
Yeah,
you know,
more than a GT3.
Yeah,
right?
or an Artura. Yeah, like it's just a rad street supercar.
Yeah.
It's really good at that. And so I was hoping that like the track version would be that tight, you know, super responsive, you know, fizzy version of it and go show both sides of the same thing.
Right, because this still has a lot of regular buttons inside. Like 296 is all capacitive.
Yeah.
So this doesn't do that. But I think it's hard when car companies go, let's make the racy version of the street car. Because if you go too far, then people will say most people will say it's too stiff. And if you don't go far enough, you have people like us who go, well, it's not exciting enough. It's too close to the road car. And I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
But the brake thing, man, I don't know what's going on with that. It just doesn't feel like it slows down from, 100
How do you not fix
Corvette
that?
does. I don't know.
Every person who drove the car said the same thing. It wasn't like
They did change the brakes. It just still feels like, and again, like, look, Maserati or Con, if you're listening, like if someone does objective testing, like Car and Driver, and they go, hey, this thing does stop from 60 or 100 in the same time as like a Z06 or whatever, then I'll eat my hat. Like I might be wrong, but from the driver's seat,
you've driven enough cars, like you're qualified to talk about,
it does not feel like it slows down at the rate I would expect, given the price, the performance.
Like here's
a
one direct comparison that you objectively have. You just did 3 days of racing school, full on, as fast as you could go in C8 Z51 Corvettes, stock. How are the brakes compared to a stock C8 Z51 Corvette?
The C8 feels better.
Yeah,
it does. It feels like a more. The
$80,000
pedal talks
car.
better. It seems like the pedal stroke is tuned better. I mean, these might be brake-by-wire, and they could adjust it or something, but it just feels like you have to go way too far toward the firewall. And I was like, wow, I'm really not slowing down as much as I thought I would from this. It's weird.
If you're driving a $320,000 car on the street, sports car on the street, you should be able to outbrake anybody. Literally, the top 99.9% of the other cars on the street.
Sure.
You should be able to outbrake that car. It's not even a question. That's like a given with that type of car. That would be very annoying. I'd be frustrated with that.
I mean, because otherwise, like, the visibility is good.
Sure.
Again, the handling is good. They've gotten a lot of things right, and those are things that some companies get wrong. But at this price point, you kind of have to get everything right.
2025, 300 grand, carbon tub.
Yeah.
A carbon tub and bad brakes. Come on.
It is so funny that they have a carbon tub, and down the street, Ferrari's like, still with the aluminum.
Yeah.
And
you must buy the puro sangue if you want one.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Yeah. Well, while you were in Spain doing that, and did you post the video? Is it up?
No, not yet.
Okay, the video is coming. Of course, the embargo lifts like while you're on the flight home, which is a totally reasonable thing for a car company to do. That's it's like building a carbon tub and then not having good brakes. Kind of the same thing there. I was in Austin, Texas, general area, hill country, scouting the road and track route with Hannah. We took a GR Corolla automatic. I wrote a story about it for Road and Track, but here's a one. Austin's nice. I like Austin enough. The hotels we were at was very cute, and the food that we ate in Austin was exceptionally good. Their roads suck balls. like their roads
gonna cancel their road and track.
Roads. No. I'm talking about the roads in the city of Austin.
Oh, okay.
The roads that are on the drive route, I'll tell you about them in a second, and they are a little unique, but it's what driving in that part of the country is like. It's representative of that part of the country and what driving is like. But in the city, god damn, is their tarmac straight trash.
Wow.
Awful. And there's holes everywhere. There's like crazy melty ruts. There's like a million surface changes. Just fucking awful.
I wonder why. Do they have like little earthquakes there like we do?
I don't know. I think it's overbuilt city. If I had to take a guess, I'd say there's a lot of big trucks running building supplies all over that fucking place.
Okay.
On roads that were probably never designed for it. If I had to take a guess. And also, a government should only be so small, if you ask me. They need to do things like fix the streets. But
I wonder. I don't know.
I don't know, but the streets in the city of Austin are awful.
Is that what fucks up the roads in New York? Is because you have big trucks going everywhere, just doing stuff?
Yeah, heavy-ass trucks.
Damage,
and then you have weather, water, it goes into holes, freezes, turns into ice, expands, breaks the shit apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you get little cracks and they water and it freezes, that's when you're in deep shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why the city's like when it's really cold, like Canada cold, and it stays like below freezing for a while, then you're usually okay. But when it's like Boston, New York, where it's that wet slush and the water gets into shit
then
and
it
then freezes,
and pushes the crack apart.
Yeah,
right.
That's when it gets nasty.
Okay.
But yeah, Austin, get your shit together with your tarmac. Seriously, love the barbecue, but we need to work on this. So it's hill country, right? So people think of Texas as like straight and flat. So we're going there to drive the windiest roads that they got, which is basically to the west and southwest of Austin. And I got a GR Corolla automatic. Now we had one briefly here. But we didn't get to film it because of that crazy windstorm. And so I got one so that Hannah could drive it also because it's an auto and because I was going to write a piece for Road and Track and I wanted to get some pictures and blah, blah, blah. So we're driving and I'm, immediately like, the roads in Austin suck. And we get outside and like, I'm like, God, kind of like all the road. Like, I'm like, I start to think like, maybe because you drove that GR Corolla. I only really drove it like one day when we had it.
Yeah, I drove it for 2 days.
You drove for 2 days, and I drove for one day. And as I'm driving this one, I'm like, God, the ride is like bad. Like, what did they do? And I start looking up like what changes they made, and they did make some changes to improve the handling and improve the launch. I mean, and they changed a few things here and there, springs and tighter sway. Basically, they made it stiffer, and so we're driving it, and I'm just going, God, they really messed this thing up. Like the ride is just awful. Like my Focus RS, whereas I drove 3 of these things before, and they didn't feel like that. And so I'm like, damn, that's a bummer. And the gearbox, just like the 3-liter Porsches, you have to put it in sport. It's unusable in normal. It's just bog, and vibrating and awful. And the roads are like, the first couple of days, the roads are these sort of, this is called the Willow City Loop. It's sort of like a rural farm road, single lane. And it's not like it's bad enough that like, you have to crawl through it. You drive 40, 45 miles an hour on it, but you're not going like 70. And there's some things to avoid. There's some potholes and things like that, and you kind of have to avoid them. But I'm like, this car is just, the ride is just killing me on this thing. And then we do some other nice roads, like some really, it's probably some of the best roads in Texas, called the Twisted Sisters, which is very much sort of like Bouquet Canyon Road here in California. It's these sort of even back, forth with some over crests and undulations. And even then, the car's being like weird and darty. And I'm like, what did they do to this thing? Well, I told Toyota when I got it back, and they're like, okay, thank you for letting us know, and here's and they told me about the changes, but they never actually said it made the car stiffer, and I figured, like with Maserati and this brakes thing, I figured like they were dancing around not wanting to say they just made it stiffer. So I get the list of changes, and I text Joey Seeley, the Emotion Engineering, and I go, hey man, I have like imposter syndrome here. I need you to help me. I just drove this new year version of this car with this updated suspension. Here's what they've done. I go, I've driven this car a bunch of times before. I swear the ride is totally different. They've really done something wrong here to mess it up. I go, would these changes make it just ride like garbage? And he's like, yeah, they definitely could. Okay. So I wrote this piece. I submit it to Road and Track. Next day, I get an email from Toyota. Hi, Matt. We've done a thorough inspection of the vehicle, and I apologize, but one of the shipping spreaders was left in one of the springs.
So one corner
had a forced spreader that prevented its spring from. So one corner had no travel.
Wow.
Or like,
or an inch, and then it would hit this block.
Or whatever, 10% of available travel. One corner. So you think that might fuck the ride up a little bit?
Yeah, it was locked off.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
So now it's like, well, what do I do with this story? Like, do I have to shit can this whole story, or do I put a disclaimer that says, oh, by the way, there was a shipping spreader in the spring? Or
I think you have to throw the story away.
I think I kind of have to throw the whole story away.
Because otherwise you're just doing a review on the stereo and the seats.
Yeah.
So, because it obviously wasn't a fair analysis of the ride or of the new suspension because it was not suspending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was definitely not suspending.
Yeah.
Sucks.
Related note, my friend Avin, who you've met, he's got an Alpha Quad, which he loves. He's had it for like 3 years. No problems, amazingly. But he took it in for a routine service like a year ago. And when they gave it back, they were like, by the way, we realized that some of the shipping spreaders were left in 2 of the springs, so we took those out for you. And he...
For years.
For years.
Yeah.
For years he loved the car anyway. He probably just thought it was like race car suspension.
Did he say how it felt afterwards?
Yeah, he said it was a lot better.
Yeah.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
I mean, when I helped Corey install suspension, our friend Corey, I helped him install coilovers on his Mazda 3 like 8 years ago. And we get it all bolted in, and we like set it off the jacks, and we're like, why is the nose so high? Like just like aimed at trophy truck aimed at the sky, and we realized that these plastic things that we thought were like required spring perches were actually just protective something or other. But like it all fit, so we had to take them off again and take the things out.
So that's bad. But I will say, that Willow City loop, it's absolutely gorgeous. It is a little slow, and then the Twisted Sisters the next day is a fantastic day of driving. There's a couple fabulous roads down there outside of Leakey, Texas.
They have some nice flowy roller coaster stuff. I was there for the Bronco launch, and I remember going, wow, this would be a fun sports car road.
Yeah. Well, I think, was it outside of Austin? Mm-hmm. So we passed a place that looked like some kind of farm or ranch that had 20 Broncos parked on it.
That's the off-rodeo.
Okay, yeah.
So they have 2 of those in the country, I think is only 2. One's in Moab, which I told you I stumbled upon. The other one is where the launch was, which is that place outside Austin.
So you did drive on good sports car roads to get there. Yeah.
And that's when I learned that if you hit the brakes in the Bronco, it dove to the left or the right. Yeah.
I will say that it's driving in Texas is definitely different from driving in other parts of the country, but I think that's what makes it very interesting. I mean, it's not like it's like gravel, dirt, rally stage. It's just like some of the tarmac isn't up to quality snuff.
Like in the city, you mean?
In the city, but like some of the rural roads are not as good as I would want them to be. I mean, they're fine. They're not bad, but I'm just like, I'm going to be encouraging people to pretty much leave their car in comfort mode the whole time.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to want the suspension. And we had a full track day at Coda to drive really fast. So it's a beautiful drive. The food is really good. The hotel we're staying at is sick. The first hotel is really nice. The second hotel is very sick. And it's fun. When your car literally has a broken suspension, it's not a good time.
It's just shaking across the state.
It's so hard to ignore something like that. It just beats the shit out of you.
Was it worse? Which corner, do you know?
You know what's funny? They didn't tell me, and I actually couldn't tell. I couldn't, in hindsight, I couldn't tell.
It wasn't different on left turns versus right turns?
No, not really. I mean, we were driving on the street, right? So I'm not pushing I never ever pushed the handling. I was using the suspension to absorb bumps, not to. And like the other thing that's unavoidable in Texas, by the way, is cattle guards.
Yeah,
they're everywhere.
Wow.
And like even on good roads, like even on like the best road that I drove on there, I believe it's the 337. Unbelievable. It's like Charahola Skyway. It's extraordinary. Cattle guards, like they're everywhere. So like this suspension was taking some big hits because I wasn't. If I was in a fucking McLaren, I'd probably slow down to a crawl. But in a pseudo rally car, you hit him a little bit.
Well, in some cattle guards, the transition is very minor, and you can just kind of keep going. And then some of them can be like a 2-inch drop. And you got to slow down.
Yeah. But it was a fun time, though. It was definitely a fun time. And then I have an update on the Bentley. It's going live on Cars and Bids March 6th.
Awesome.
There was a delay of game because Doug had to film other shit, and so I certainly understand how that goes. So he has filmed it, and it's in post, and it's going. Our video, I made a video about how much it costs to run the Bentley for the year, and that video is going up the same day as the auction, which is March 6th. So
Should we live podcast to Patreon as the auction goes and just watch?
No, the end. We want to.
Yeah.
The live podcast is the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But not the beginning. Yeah. Well, the video at the beginning, and then the podcast at the end.
How long is the auction? Is it a week?
I believe it's a week.
Okay.
Yeah. Shout out to him. Fast and Furious musical is coming back in New York.
Nice.
So New York people,
yes,
you can find them on Instagram, Fast and Furious musical parody, 100% worth your money.
Absolutely.
One of the best theater experiences you'll have. It's in Brooklyn in May.
You will laugh your ass off.
It's amazing.
It's
Get
so
tickets.
good. I'm stoked for them. It feels like they're climbing that ladder.
Yeah. Those guys are great.
Dude, that's going to be a Broadway show one day, I swear.
Yeah, and my friend Frankie, who plays Charlize Theron, is amazing too.
Yeah,
they're
she's really funny.
Yeah, they're awesome. But did you see a study? And it was on. They covered it on The Drive. But I at least read the first couple non-sciencey pages of the go down. Well, if that is a real Volvo, it's fake. No, the thing about brake pad dust. There was a study that basically said that brake pad. I was on this morning that copper particles is
super
really
carcinogenic.
Super carcinogenic. And we knew brake dust and tire particles are really bad. But this study really seems to be convinced that switching the powertrain of our vehicles will not be an effective way to reduce much of the horrible shit in the atmosphere, because brake pads, as the vehicles get heavier, and tire particles, as the vehicles get heavier from going EV, are potentially just as bad.
Ooh, but
I partially disagree because of regenerative braking.
There you go. Right. So much of the braking in EVs is done regenerative. Right?
That's the thing. There's a couple things in the study that don't quite add up. One is they refer to it. They make a comparison with diesel engines, but there is an enormous spread in what is called a diesel engine.
Sure, of course. I mean, is it a Volkswagen or is it made by someone else?
And and also they kind of gloss over regenerative braking, which I think in an EV with a one-pedal drive feature, you would drastically reduce how much you're actually using the brake
tens
pedal.
of percent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Unless you're driving really fast, you might. It'd be cool if we could get data from an OEM, or if your car could tell you, hey, here's how much time was spent with regen, and here's how much time was actually spent using caliper.
I bet we could get somebody in some engineering department to tell us that. It's going to be different. Depends
David Tuig, I know you're listening.
Yeah, he probably would know.
Probably would know.
Dave, if you're out there, let us know. But it's probably different in a car that has, well, maybe not, because the Taycan doesn't have one pedal drive. But when you hit the brake pedal, that is regen for the first half of brake. It's only when you really need to stop that because you can feel it transition. Most stopping is done on regen, but pedal activated, not one pedal drive activated.
I think that's true of a lot of EVs, though. Even if they have one pedal, when you touch the pedal, it's going to use regen as much as possible until you need more clamping force, right?
I think so, because I
was talking to somebody at the launch, and they were on. I think it was Chris Perkins. They were on the road and track test you did, and so you can speak to this. When they noticed that when the battery was fully charged, regen was not effective for the first few laps because you need
charge
room.
to 100%.
Right, there's nowhere for that electricity to go. So that's pretty interesting.
So I noticed that because I drive on one pedal drive on the Ford when I had it, right? So when I would charge at my house to 100%, I live at the top of a little hill. So I'd leave my driveway and I would start to go down the hill. And I would notice right away that one pedal drive wouldn't work because there was nowhere to regen that energy.
Yeah.
So a screen would pop up and it would say one pedal drive unavailable until battery discharges, whatever. And so, I mean, when the battery got to 99, it was enough that it would come back on. I mean, it was within the first half mile or so, or mile. But yeah, there was nowhere for it to go.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Very fun. So anyway, I think what's important about the study is not to shoot holes in what kind of diesel engine or to talk about the ignoring of regenerative braking, but I just think that it's an important thing to think about how we could improve our air quality in other ways besides forcing the entire world to go EV. You could probably meaningfully reduce brake particles and tire particles, which would drastically improve air quality all over the world.
Yeah.
In conjunction with an efficient gas engine, could net result be much cleaner than if you have an EV that's it's an extreme example, but a Hummer EV or a very heavy EV that's going through tires and going through brake pads like crazy.
I mean, hybrid too. Like Sarah's RAV4, whenever I hit the brakes, that little meter goes charging. It goes all the way to the top. I wonder
what the veracity would be of the Porsche surface-coated brakes, the PSCBs, the white calipers. Those are supposed to be dust-free, and I'm sure they're not dust-free. But the point of that white caliper is to show that they don't collect dust. And I think they do make a lot less dust. I just don't know how expensive they are and if that's
if that becomes the standard
thing.
But yeah, I mean, I know that this has been an ongoing discussion, this kind of carcinogenic properties of brake pads and people that live closer to highways. It's not just exhaust, it's also brake dust in the air. Yeah. I don't know, maybe they'll start manufacturing them in a cleaner way if possible, but I'm sure they've already tried.
I mean, well, maybe they have tried, and I'm sure somebody's trying. Yeah, go down to the bottom of this story. Somebody makes a copper-free. Go down to the very last thing. Oh, yeah. Several suppliers, including Akabono, already sell a range of copper-free and low-copper brake pads.
Oh, and there was a law passed in 2017 to limit the copper content in brake pads to a maximum of 5% in 2021, and it's supposed to go down to a maximum of 0.5% in 2025.
What do you bet?
For every car sold in California, so that's not nationwide.
So you think there's going to be 49 state brake pads, 50 state? Think they're going to include it on your annual inspection?
Maybe.
Check for your carb brake pads?
Isn't that the case with catalytic converters? And there's like California cats. And
you can't
gasoline.
necessarily get. Yeah, you have to get. For sure. I think I would say, can you click on the range of the Akabono brake pads? I would say this: consumer advice: if you must buy brake pads for your car, particularly like a regular car, not a supercar, but just your regular car, ask for copper-free brake pads if you can. You will probably, your car will stop exactly the same. So I think, there we go. They have the different leaves on your brake pad. So there's a little icon. It's got 3 leaves on it, and they're outlines. And if one leaf is filled in with color, it means the brake pad contains no asbestos or heavy metals. That should be your baseline. Level B is 2 leaves. The brake pads meet level A requirements and contain less than 5%. That's that 2021 standard. Yep. And then level N is 3 filled in leaves, and that means they meet the new requirements and contain less than 0.5% requirements.
And it does say that going forward, all Akabono brake pads will meet 2 leaf level B requirements, with more of them going for 3 leaf. So it's going to be hard to get the level A, thankfully.
Yeah. Well, no asbestos. They did that, that's 30 years ago at least, right? So just something to think about. Mm-hmm. And by the way, the lighter your car is, no matter what powers it, the lighter your car is, the less brake dust and tire dust and all of that. By the way, because the less dust means your consumable is lasting longer.
Right. Once again, the answer is always Miata.
Yeah. Well, light. The answer is any fucking light car, really. I mean, Oh, there we go. By the way, someone commented on the story. Page 13 describes the diesel engine. It was a 12.6 liter inline six on a test bench. So it was basically a semi-truck.
Yeah.
It ran at 1,200 RPM. So it was basically mimicking a semi-truck engine cruising at highway speeds. Okay, well, so Euro 3 standard compliance. So it's a modern semi-truck engine. I think this study could have been focused on trucks more so than actual cars. But okay. But it's a modern engine, is the point. Mm-hmm. Not a 40-year-old engine. So I stand corrected on the not knowing what kind of engine it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have so many questions, you guys. So many questions. I could talk a little bit about the Revuelto, but we're going to do that a whole other show.
Well, let's do it because I'll drive it tomorrow. Sorry, let's talk about it later because I'm going to drive it tomorrow.
Yeah. It is. It's $682,000. $682,000. But I'll tell you what, it's you
feel the value.
You actually, it's hard to say something is quote worth it, but it's in you can see where the money's gone. You definitely understand where the money's gone for sure. And well, I think you'll see that when you drive it too. Because for that amount of money, you should have everything. There should be nothing that car isn't great at.
I agree.
And we'll get to all those things on our next show, I'm sure. Of course, if you want to talk to us through the internet, the best way to do it is to pay us. Patreon. To support us, to support the show, because ads ain't going to run this bitch forever, let me tell you, especially when our fucking billionaire overlords get what they want and shut it down. When we're all wearing AI pendants to ask permission if we could piss. 30 years. Patreon. That's where we're at. Support the show directly at patreon.com/thesmokingtirepodcast. You can also catch the live stream. You can also get the show before everybody else. You can also get the show without advertising. And you can ask us questions about cars and other things that we will answer on the air. So let's get to that. Silence of the Lambo. That is like what happens when I start a Revuelto in my driveway in the morning in EV mode and silencio away. It's so nice. You can not only not have to wake your spouse and your pets, you can choose whose spouse and pets to wake. You can hit that button anywhere on your block and just unleash the fucking fury.
I like that because you can go 3 doors down and then go, I don't like this
And you
person.
go, you know what? This guy was kind of a dickbag. Mm-hmm. Let me just fire a V12 at him at 6:40 a.m.
Yeah.
And I feel good about it. But Silence of the Lambo says, what are your favorite OG online car forum drama? That's a fucking good one. Do you remember? Do you have any online car forum drama?
I can't recall. I know that the Ferrari chat is usually full of drama.
Oof. I
figured you'd have some stories from that.
Oh, yeah.
But Subaru forums, I don't recall having drama. It was just nerds.
Because they're all like, bro, it's good. There's no drama.
It was usually people blowing up transmissions and then blaming the car for what they did. Now, the 5-speed was one thing, but this isn't really drama, but there was a guy who posted a video, and the video is titled, like, What Happened to My Car? And he had a brand new black and gold STI. And it's a video of him clutch drop launching 5 times in a row. And I mean like, wah, 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 and the 6th time you hear, ka-tunk, and the car stops. And he's like, what the fuck happened? And everyone's like, you happened. You did this. What do you think? So that's not really drama. It was just it was a good pile-on.
Sure. I mean, the case study of online forum drama is, of course, John Hennessy getting involved in the forums when people are calling him a thief.
Right.
And really not helping himself.
That's true.
Yeah. That's the most memorable online forum drama that I can recall in terms of a specific incident or thread that really got just beyond out of hand. But dude, Ferrari chat in 2008 and 7, it was so crazy. It was so weird because I'd meet these people in person. these were like rich, like Wall Street guys with like families, and they're all rolling these expensive ass cars. And then you'd read the forum and you'd think you were talking to like middle school people. These are the biggest fucking loser wieners where it's like, don't you have jobs and families? Like, what are any of you doing? You're just like bitching at each other over, not even related to the cars. It had nothing to do with the cars. But like before, you know, a lot of like the modern social media tools, like the Northeast, like within Ferrari chat, there's like, you know, model specific stuff, like, you know, people who are wrenching on their own cars and tech questions and your regular forum stuff.
Now, if you own a 360, are you allowed to post comments in the F12 area, or is it are you barred because you're not?
I don't know, because I never had a Ferrari at that point. Okay. And what you had on Ferrari chat was you had the model stuff, and I never even went in there. But then you had the regional. And so I don't know what was going on in any other region, but I can tell you the New York Northeast tri-state was a complete shit show of these people. And like some people didn't own Ferraris, some people did. Like that was just the local forum. It just happened to exist on Ferrari chat. But like
that was like
all of it was
that
terrible.
Should have been an indicator of where we were headed in general. Like the internet was going to get as angry as it is now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. Andrew Wu says, I just pulled the trigger on a G80 X Drive. That's a Genesis. Oh, wait. No, it's a BMW. That's a BMW M3.
Yeah.
Sorry. Do you think there's anything I need to get as an upgrade out of the box? If I'm doing spirited long drives in this car, like brake lines or pads? No.
Usually I would say fluid. Usually if you're going to drive it hard, like the brake fluid is probably the first thing that would overheat. Or if you wanted to do a track day.
Wait till you do it. It's an M3.
It should be graded good enough at everything.
It's not like getting in a WRX and going, I'm going to do a track day in that. An M3 should be at a pretty high standard out of the box.
Yeah.
You should be able to drive and enjoy for a little bit.
And then he says, I'm looking at flashing the suspension and transmission from the M3 CS. I don't know. We haven't driven that back-to-back, have we?
I haven't. But, I mean, if it really is the OEM stuff, it probably won't make it worse.
Right.
You know, if you're really getting the OEM stuff, if it's that real good shit,
it makes it a little softer.
That brand name shit, not that Alibaba.
Yeah, if you're getting the actual software. Make sure
How
you're
do you
getting
know
it.
if it's the actual software?
I don't know. It depends on who's installing
My
it.
God, you're some trustworthy motherfucker. Because what are you going to do? You got to take their word for it. You know? How do you know anything when someone gets in your fucking ECU? You just have to assume they know what they're doing.
And then you have to sheepishly go back to the dealership and be like, will you set my car back to stock?
Yeah. Elderly woman behind the wheel in a small car.
Good. There's some really good names today.
You guys are really coming through with the usernames. That's superb. Our auto show is going to be a thing of the past. Will they move to modern conventions like CES, like Honda? The thing about auto shows is they're mainly put on by regional dealer associations. That's who provides the cars. The manufacturers don't really actually support it all that much.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I know the dealers usually bring the cars. I figured that
They
the
also
OEM
pay for the
supplied some
booths
money
and
too.
stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. And but I think the manufacturers force the dealers to do it. But I think, attendance is down across the board, but it's still like where people go to like sit in cars with their families and like try them out, I think, but I wonder if that market now it's just car people that do that. Whereas before it was like that was everyone's access to sit in a car, and Carvana and other people have proved that like some people don't give a shit. They just want to click order or they'll just go in and pick one. So I think the way people buy cars is splintering a bit. Yeah. But no, I don't think they'll move to big conventions like CES, unless there is some kind of specific tech feature, right? That they're trying to do. Because they can, if they want to have media cover their shit, they'll just have a fully controlled press launch. Yes. Which is way cheaper and easier than a public-facing auto show. Or they can glom onto SEMA in one way or another and not have to set up an entire convention just for new cars. I don't. Do you know what Bad Gardener? Oh wait, sorry. But butt hardness. Okay. About last episode's electric turbo spooling on the new 911 GTS, Honda has teased a motorcycle that's a V3 with an electric turbo that does not use exhaust pressure. I don't know how they plan to generate the wattage to power such a thing. It would have to be...
Oh, I remember. So last episode, I think Butt Hardness asked, why doesn't Porsche use electricity to power the turbo entirely and not use exhaust gas?
Yeah. So, I mean... The reason I think is that beyond a certain RPM, the exhaust gas is just there, and it's more efficient, and also they need the turbo to generate energy, not just the turbo is now a two-way energy device. It's not just a one-way energy device. That's sort of the difference with this new e-motor turbo.
This is the Moto.
So Honda, let's see.
Cicletta.
Okay, wait, hang on. V3 motorcycle with an electrical compressor. It's a water-cooled, blah, 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 for large displacement motorcycles. First, electrical compressor, which is labeled to control compression of the intake air, irrespective of engine RPM, meaning high response torque can be delivered at lower RPM. Okay, it does not require any form of intercooler. That's cool. How does it... Let's see. Can you scroll down? It doesn't have a... Oh, it doesn't say. Can you click on that electrical compressor image? Can we make it bigger? No?
Oh, wow.
Well, I mean, it looks like a turbo that just blows straight into what looks like an intake manifold of some kind. Huh. That's pretty cool. I don't know how it generates the energy to do that, but I like the idea. I mean, for a big, like, torquey bike, that would be sick. For a cruiser?
Yeah.
Like, that's 100% going on a Goldwing and not a fucking Fireblade or whatever their modern superbike is.
I wonder if... I guess we'll see. It all depends on the tuning, right? So if they use it mostly to get off the line at low RPM, but then as you get higher in the RPM, it just hands it over to the engine.
That could be. Yeah,
it's all speculation.
That could be. And then while it's running on engine, it could you know,
then it's charging some lithium battery.
It could do both ways. Yeah. How interesting. That's a good one. But I think in the Porsches it makes sense that the exhaust would take over because it's there. Bad Gardner, new M3, 1,300 horsepower. What do you know about this? I don't know anything about that. Do you know anything about this? Never heard of it. Sorry, Bad Gardner. Canceled.
I see CarWow did a walk around. So BMW VDX concept that has 1,300 horsepower. It's electric.
It's electric.
Oh, that's why.
That's why. Tim A., when you went to the GT3 launch, did Porsche give hints about a manual transmission turbo model? They did not. Tim says, it's looking likely with a wide body turbo touring, bless you, driving around Germany, essentially a mass market 911 Sport Classic. I called this 6 months ago, 8 months ago. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do it, if they make the regular turbo a mass market sport classic, maybe even rear drive, and the Turbo S, the Big Daddy hybrid PDK all-wheel drive. And I think that would be excelente. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jeremiah Dicklesworth III wants a new fun daily road trip car that will carry the dogs. Cayenne GTS or Turbo, Alpina XB7, RS6 Avant. Current garage is a 911, TTS, Emira, truck, Pajero, and a couple old muscle cars.
Cool.
Wow. Okay, all right, I'm going to say the XB7 is a nice luxury car, but not fun.
Yes. It's too soft.
The RS6 Avant seems like it would be fun, but after a few days, it's not that fun. It's fast when you're in it, but it's not that fun. The Cayenne GTS is pretty aggressive.
Sounds good.
It sounds good. It's more fun than the RS6, for sure.
And I think it's firmer and more sporty than the XB7, but still very comfortable, still feels special.
Yeah. Cayenne Turbo is faster than a Cayenne GTS, but not... I guess it's a turbo hybrid now. The hybrid is nice if you also want to roll on electric for short trips around town. And it's nicer on the highway than the GTS. It's more relaxed on the highway. but it's less fun.
Yeah, I think you just have to test drive those two cars. The
Yeah.
GTS depends on the roads near you. Like it feels a little stiff on the wrong, bad tarmac, but it is fun and it sounds good and it's kind of like an exciting thing to drive all the time.
Let's see. Other things that could be fun, the Audi RS8, which is the same price as the Cayenne GTS and is basically an Urus Light and a total sleeper. Those are classy and very nice.
Well, Jeremiah says most of the driving will be long distance and rallies.
Yeah.
Okay.
The RS6 is comfortable enough to use as a Grand Tourer. The problem with it is, for the amount of money you're spending, it's just not that fun. That would bum me out. I'd rather a C63 or a lightly used, or not a C63, excuse me, an E63 wagon, or a lightly used Panamera Turbo S wagon. I'd much rather either of those for fast wagons.
I agree. And I think the next step from Panamera to me is GTS, especially if you're at Tail of the Dragon. The roads around there are very smooth, twisty. You'll be happy. That's good.
I agree. Randomly, grilled Tail of the Dragon. Wants to go to the track more regularly and aggressively this year, looking to install a roll cage and harnesses in my daily GT500 for safety and because race car. What mods do you later view in life as stupid or not worth the inconvenience, such as a potentially unnecessary roll cage? Racing harnesses. Harnesses, taking out, not just having harnesses, but replacing factory seat belts entirely.
Yeah.
So dumb. So fucking dumb.
I mean, because you need some of that forward movement to hit the airbag.
Yeah.
Like, crashing with a harness on can be very dangerous.
If you don't have a Hans.
If you don't have if you don't have a Hans on, because your neck's going to stretch.
Yeah. Also, crashing with a cage can be very deadly at low speed.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're talking about if you're talking about doing a rear harness bar and then also a high back bucket seat,
I think that's fine.
That's
if you can keep the 3-point.
That's safe for the street.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't do anything with a halo bar or a door bar on a street car.
I agree.
Absolutely not. You could die in a very low speed crash like that.
Yeah.
But other mods, like I ran like a straight pipe for a while in my Corvette. Like that's real stupid. Just beyond when the car is like loud beyond where it stops making more power. Taking out cats is stupid. Running catless, that's dumb.
Yep.
Street glow.
I didn't want to bring it up.
Yeah. Fuck, marry, kill. Steering feel, suspension feel, or engine power. Fuck engine power. Kill steering feel. No, kill engine power. Fuck chassis feel, marry steering feel.
Ooh, I think I'd marry suspension chassis. And then, man, that's really tough. That's like, what's the most important thing? I think you fuck power, and then you can kill. I can kill steering feel.
Okay. Yeah. Blurple car's been parked for a year with a blown head gasket. What would be the first thing you would do after getting your favorite car back after a year of repairs? Road trip, dude. Road trip. Weekend, not too much commitment. Light schedule.
Right, yeah, I was gonna say if it's a fresh build, do a short trip.
Yeah.
And then do a long trip.
Yeah.
To reconnect with the vehicle that you like, because you obviously like it because you've had it for a year.
Mama my Miata. There we go. Given how successful sporty crossovers have gotten, would it make sense for Acura to do an RDX Type S using the Integra Type S engine or the Turbo V6 out of the other Type S models? I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I'd go Turbo V6. I think the Integra engine would be
a little weak
for an RDX manual.
No. I want one to exist, but I don't want to own it.
Right, so we should just skip that.
Yeah,
and we should just have but I'd go, bigger power with a SUV, sure.
Sure.
I think they'd sell 4.
Yeah. All-wheel drive bias. First year having 2 cars, and fortunate enough to keep my fun car in the garage for most of the winter. What sort of processes and preventative measures do we use at WCCS to prevent deterioration of vehicles while they sit for so long? So we keep the cars on battery tenders. If they are going to be stored and not driven for a long time, we fill the gas tanks, and we put in a bottle of fuel stabilizer. We start the cars up, all of them, and warm them up to operating temperature once a month. And while we're doing that, we shuffle them around so they're not sitting on the same part of the tires. We don't use those weird tire pillow things. People keep trying to sell us those weird tire pillows where, like, you literally drive your car up onto a pillow. And instead of...
To keep it round?
To keep your tire round.
Oh, interesting.
If your car, I mean, I suppose if your car is like literally going to sit for like years,
if you're going to do that, just put it on jack stands.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But like, I don't know, maybe there's a market out there for these things, but we move the cars around. So, let's see. I'm not.
We haven't watched the video.
Alex Hay is referencing a video that I haven't watched, so I'm going to pass on this one. Sorry. Alex says, you're not asking me, but I think the way we drive will change more than how the cars will change.
I think that's a response to Alex Hay.
All right. Yeah, I mean, look, I think even if you're worried about an administrative state with driving, even Switzerland, the strictest speeding state ever, on the fucking good roads, you can still have fun. It's only on the highways. You can still have fun in the places that are in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Everywhere, wherever you go in the world, the best roads in the middle of nowhere, there's no enforcement.
The least convenient way to get somewhere.
That's where you go to have fun with a car. Yes. Let's see. Max Lyall. In Australia, MG are selling an electric vehicle for under $20K US with a 10-year warranty and 350 kilometers of range. Is there anything close to this in America? And if there isn't, would a deal like this change the market at all? I mean, I think so, but a lot of people that have that are at the very low end of the car market live in apartments that don't have handy charging. They're not living in like single-family homes, right? I mean, yes, a more affordable electric car would actually change the market.
Yeah, short answer. If we had an electric car here that was $20,000 and something that's more usable than the 500E, because that's a pretty damn cheap car.
Yeah.
But it's so small, I think that keeps a lot of people away. So if you had a simple four-door for $20,000, for sure.
Yeah, basically if the Nissan Leaf could do, 200 miles of range.
Yeah.
That's pretty much
if the Versa was an EV, that would get a lot more people in the door.
Yeah. I think it would change the market. I think people would buy it. I mean, most people who buy Model 3s don't do so because it's like amazing. It's because it's like the cheapest electric car.
Yeah, with a good supporting charging network. Yeah, they're everywhere here. I mean, they're frequently used as taxis, Ubers, Lyfts because of that.
Yeah.
I think you would see more of that if they were cheap enough. But to buy them for most people, it's cost prohibitive.
Yeah. Jay Fritz, have you ever had to make a choice where your car hobby came second or was sacrificed in some way? I mean, my car hobby has been all part of my work since I was 25 years old. So, I mean, I had to, when I lost my free car storage and had to fire sale like 4 cars because I didn't have
someone put that in a comment.
Didn't have anywhere to keep them.
Someone had a reply. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm the exception. Most people in the real world have to at some point sacrifice something in their car hobby.
Well, when I moved here, I was driving the STI I was financing, and I quickly realized that the economics weren't going to work out, and I had to sell it within 3 months of being here. And I bought a $3,000 Honda Civic that had a broken speedometer and odometer. And so that was a sacrifice for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Old Rusty Bimmer, what the hell is this? And then puts a link about the apparent story that Jeep is sending pop-up ads through their Uconnect UI system. If that's actually true, I was nervous about fully repeating this without somebody at Stellantis having a statement. But that's pretty crazy.
Here, according to Tech Story.
Wait. Ooh. Hold on. Go back to the previous page.
What in the
what has happened here?
Is this?
I mean, that's real terrible. It's ads for extended warranty that come up every time the vehicle comes to a stop. That's crazy.
Oh, here. So that's a screen grab.
Yeah.
Or a photo of it. Again, this website's terrible.
It says a website with an enormous amount of pop-ups. The irony of doing a story on pop-ups.
Yes, and then I can't close. There we go. So the pop-up from Stellantis, it says, purchase peace of mind, FlexCare extended premium plans are factory warranty, blah, blah, blah. So it's basically saying, hey, do you want to call and extend your warranty right now?
These ads are part These ads are part of the contractual agreement with SiriusXM. So is this an ad to renew your Sirius subscription?
I don't think they'd call it FlexCare Extended Care Premium Plan if it was part of that.
That's crazy. Yeah,
but
if
it's a contractual agreement with Sirius, then maybe Sirius gets a cut by Sirius owns the real estate or something.
Maybe
that's weird.
Yeah, that's pretty shitty.
Like if you're listening to Sirius, but this pop-up shows up.
Yeah,
maybe that's what Sirius gets a little bit of the kickback on.
Probably, yeah.
That is very annoying.
It's so
very
shitty.
Annoying.
Yo, fucking, we're all we're already so fucked with our connected cars. They're just telling everybody about us. But that right there is a fantastic example of surveillance capitalism. I mean, your car is watching you and knows when you do a thing and then tries to sell you something because of it. That's literally what surveillance capitalism is.
That's just annoying. You have this screen and all this stuff, and now you come to stop, and then you just have this pop-up that's like, hey, do you want to buy the warranty?
It's not hard to see where this goes. Where this goes is because we're so used to following fucking Waze and shit around that particularly when we eventually do get to an autonomous car, somebody's going to pay to have an AV route you past their shit.
For sure.
100%. 100%.
Well, because we know
they're going to hear you talking about wanting a fucking burger, and Applebee's has keyword burger on your AI pendant, and is going to route your fucking shit past whatever you were just talking about.
Yeah. When you zoom in on Google for restaurant, the first pop-ups are paid ads from big companies, and then you start seeing the mom and pop stuff.
Yeah. Murray says the coffee kicked in on. Okay, wait. Oh, okay. The question is there a car where you unintentionally tested its driving dynamics due to coffee or Taco Bell mistakes, meaning you had to deuce?
You had an unexpected bathroom necessity.
Yeah.
And you had to drive very quickly to remedy that. Probably. But nothing horrific that is seared into my memory, thankfully.
Yeah. I mean, I probably would have known if I hadn't made it. If I had actually deuced in the car as a result of not making it, it would probably be very memorable. But I think I've always made it, and therefore it's gone pretty quickly. I mean, I definitely, when my cat Conrad died and I tried to race him to the vet to save him in the Mach-E, and I must have broken 100 traffic laws between my house and the vet. But it's not a great story. He died. He wasn't going to come back.
But how was the turn-in? That's the question, Matt.
Well, it was really I'm never using my phone as a key again because the car wouldn't unlock because I didn't have my fucking phone. I hope Matt likes my username. I do, buddy. My dad sold his first car with an ad in Auto Trader magazine. My grandma recalls that his Buick was on the cover of the magazine. I'd love to find a copy and gift it to my dad. Google searches have not worked. How do you find old issues of Auto Trader magazine? Have you tried going to autotrader.com and contacting their staff about specific back issues of the magazine?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
I mean, that's what you would do for any magazine.
Yeah.
I will say that for Road and Track, you can buy back issues on Amazon, which I hate to advertise Amazon for anything. But I literally was Road and Track 2004, blah, 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 and I was able to buy a brand new copy of that.
eBay can also be a decent resource. I think Auto Trader, didn't they make one a week?
Yeah, Auto Trader
right?
was a weekly.
It's printed weekly, right? So the problem is that the volume of magazines they put out, like someone would have to store 52 magazines a year versus 12.
Auto
So
Trader may
that'd
also
tough.
be regional.
Oh,
Meaning you'd
yeah,
have
it
to
surely
get
is.
the office for your region.
Surely is.
So, I mean,
I would contact their head office.
the first thing I would do is go to autotrader.com and go to contact us and try to. You're not the first person to ever try to do this.
Right.
Somebody will have an answer.
And eBay hoarders might help you out. Someone has a stack of those magazines in Orange County.
Yeah. Again, from Bad Gardener, with the Revuelto partially in mind, are there any cars with 4-digit horsepower that you actually have interest in owning? Good question.
Yeah, sure. The Bugatti Chiron.
A Chiron?
I would buy.
Sure.
Sure. If I was super rich, I think it looks amazing inside and out. It goes like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Koenigsegg, sure.
Yeah, I mean, if all the money in the world, yeah, I'd have a Koenigsegg. I think that would be exceptional.
I would also own a 1,000 horsepower Mark IV Supra.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, if money is real,
Right.
which it is, and like if I, the choice was to own one of these insane cars and nothing else, like really stretch the budget as far as it would go and then be really irresponsible on top of that. Then maybe one? No, not interested.
I agree. If I have to stretch for that purchase, like the new ZR1,
Yeah.
I don't know if I would stretch my budget to $200,000 to buy that specific car because I can get so many different other things for $200,000.
Yeah.
Just to have that 1,000 horsepower, I don't think I would. But if money is no object, I like the cars enough where I would want to have them.
Yeah,
regardless of their power number.
There's plenty of cars at 500 horsepower where you go, this is all I ever need, and you're right, it is. But there's other cars that are 500 horsepower where it doesn't necessarily feel like all of those are getting to the ground, and that's where you start to go, maybe a little more would do it here. Let's see, of the. Oh, this is a callback to my mom. If my mom bought what? Okay, so this calls back to a story where I tried to get my mom in 1997 to buy a Tahoe.
Right.
Instead, she bought a Lexus RX 300, and she was right and I was wrong. The question is, of all the terrible cars being manufactured right now, what would you be most disappointed in if your mom bought it instead of a Tahoe?
I mean, instead of there's a
If
Chrysler 200.
my mom bought an electric Hummer right now, I'd be more disappointed in her than if she bought a regular Tahoe.
I would be shocked and so entertained. I'd have so many questions for Vivian. Oh, my God.
Were you here when my dad found out how much he had been scammed by buying an Escalade? Mm-mm. So he had that Escalade.
When?
He had a driver for a while when he was at Tory Burch. And he had to supply the car, so he wanted a car. So he's tall. He wanted Escalade, a durable New York City car. Yeah. And it turned out it was like a huge shitbox. Like it was so bad, everything was broken on it all the time. It was junk, and he got $20,000 on the hood to buy it, and it was still junk. Like that's how bad this thing was. This was not this current gen, but one back.
Okay.
But he came out to L.A. with my mom, to visit. And they rented a car while they were here, and they rented a Tahoe. And it was the base Tahoe, like the Hertz Tahoe.
Yeah.
And he's driving it around, and he goes, this is exactly the same as the car that I have.
And he paid way more money.
And he's like, how much is one of these new? And I was like, $42,000. And he's like, I paid fucking $80,000 for one. He's like, this is the same thing. He's like, what a fucking piece of shit.
With just a badge on the front of it, yeah. And like slightly nicer buttons. Oh, man, that's funny. You can never look behind the curtain, ever. Yeah. That is a rare opportunity one has. Like the same thing, I think of that when I see like GMC trucks and AT4s and stuff, and they look cool. I know they have a good hardware, but I'm like, the same thing is down the street.
Well, remember back in the day
less.
when Maserati first came out with the Ghibli, the newer Ghibli, which was like, 2012 or 13 maybe? And we drove it on the press launch, and we're like, the buttons are the same as in a Dodge Charger. And the guy with a straight fucking face said, the people shopping for this car will have never driven a Dodge Charger. And I was like, you're gonna die on that hill?
That's a bet.
Crazy.
That's an aggressive bet. Because I would actually counter that the people that aggressively finance Dodge Chargers, once they make a little money, will aggressively finance a new Maserati.
If they've got a Hellcat, the side piece drives a Ghibli.
That's a Maserati heart they have. They're just driving a Charger today.
You know the house around the corner from my house where the guy's got like 15 Turo cars?
No.
There's a dude around the corner from my house who's got a Turo spread, and they're all on the fucking street. It's not my street, so I don't care. But like, he's got like 2 Sprinters, a Hellcat. He's got 2 Polaris slingshots, and just like, you know, it's nothing like special, but like stuff they'll hit on Turo.
Yeah.
Like he's clearly running a bit, but he got a Ghibli. And it's wrapped matte orange. Oh, God. It's like, holy shit. Find him on Turo.
That's a terrible car in every way.
It's not good.
Yeah.
What would I be the most disappointed if my mom bought instead of a Tahoe?
Electric
a
Hummer is
Cybertruck.
strong. Oh, of course.
A Cybertruck. There is no more embarrassing vehicle you can buy in the year of our fucking Lord 2025. It's the single most embarrassing vehicle you could buy today.
Yeah. The Hummer H1 looks great by
Great.
comparison. Yeah.
Fabulous.
And actually, it isn't that big. Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of like age like milk, the Hummer H1 is not that big.
Yeah, it's not.
Enrico Palazzo, what's the ideal working man's generation and spec 911? Use case, normal dude that just always wanted a 911 and was smart enough with his money to have a moderately priced toy. 997. You're a 997 Carrera, absolutely the sweet spot of 911 ownership, I think. Save yourself $40,000 to $50,000.
Yeah.
Keep 10 on the side for maintenance.
Yeah, and they look good. They look classic.
Yeah.
Even when they were new, it's got a decent interior for sure.
Yeah. So granny shifting, not double clutching like you should. Was impressed that I was able to ascertain that the Gunther Works power button was not accurately delivering the levels. It's commonly asserted that in the car community, that BMW and Porsche underrate the power levels on their car, and you've said before that the Mustang seems to, he wrote under-deliver, but I think I've said over-deliver. How true or false do you think the claim is about BMW and Porsche? I think the Germans, all of them, tend to measure their power outputs in sort of worst case scenarios.
Right.
You could be on any dyno in any climate and it'll put down the number. And so if you then proceed to test it in ideal conditions, it will exceed the numbers.
Well, isn't the thing that Porsche does, they test the 0 to 60 time is done with like gross vehicle weight and max, like full cargo, full people, and that's why when you empty it out, it beats like every time they beat their time.
I don't know if that's true, but maybe. I mean, I know that they test their cars under pretty serious conditions, but.
And like the dynos, we've seen this with Audi for a long time.
Audi
when you put it on the dyno, it's making 100 more at the wheel than it is at the crank. Allegedly.
Remember was it the S8? The S8 was like underrated by like 100 horsepower. Yeah.
It's been happening for a long time. So I don't know if they overbuild the engine and they know that they can trickle out these power increases for the life of the engine for 10 years. But when you actually put it on the dyno, you're kind of getting the real number. I'm not sure.
And with Mustangs, it's like I feel like I can feel the drivetrain losses. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like the engine doesn't make the power. It feels like it gets away from you before it gets to the wheels.
I think the GT500 felt pretty honest.
Different driveline. That's a Tremec. It's a carbon drive shaft.
Yeah, but it's still a Mustang.
GT-based cars, they're different. Like you put a Whipple on a GT versus the GT500. Those are completely different speeds of vehicle. Yeah. Even though they make the same advertised.
It's like all the bushings in between engine and tire 100%. Are just a little too squishy.
100%. Michael Cosgrove, favorite European country to drive in? God, is that tough because they're all fun.
I think I'd have to go Germany only because the Autobahn does exist, but you also like.
You have some mountains.
There's some mountains which are good and twisty, and the tarmac's really good. And then you can go over like the high mountains if you want to and get really twisty stuff. Spain is also excellent.
Spain is fabulous.
Spain is excellent.
Spain is fabulous, but I have to say Switzerland. I mean, there's just actually European. I would say New Zealand, but that's obviously not European. But
New Zealand was so slow though in so many
it
places.
Was, but it was gorgeous, and I think in the right car. I think we did it in the wrong car. We were in a minivan.
Sure.
If you do it in a fun car, I bet it would be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, there's nothing like Switzerland. It's just extraordinary. John Lynch, strangest and most useless option or added extra you've ever encountered on a car. Oh yeah, the open and throws out the openometer. There was a gauge in the Mini Cooper that recorded the percentage of time spent with the roof down.
That's adorable.
Which is crazy.
That is very silly.
I mean, the obvious is the Volkswagen New Beetle, the flower vase. That's very dumb.
Is that an option?
Yeah, it might have been standard,
Okay.
honestly. Let's see.
What was I just had a thought. I forgot.
I mean, back in the day, like you could get a coffee maker in the dash of a Volkswagen Beetle, like a full-on coffee maker. That seems dangerous.
Now you can just buy them at like a Buc-ee's.
Yeah, FDR, president, his car had a machine that dispensed lit cigarettes, which I love.
I used to think that the tent on the back of the Aztec was dumb, but now I car camp more and I kind of get it.
Yeah.
And you can sell those to people that own Broncos and 4Runners all day long.
The gauge in old BMWs that just moves back and forth and shows your miles per gallon.
BMWs have that
but
too.
It's just
Yeah.
no. I'm saying in BMW.
Oh, I think
it's really just a throttle position sensor.
Yeah.
That's very stupid.
I think I forget who first had it, but like a touch button that opens the glove box.
Oh yeah.
And even worse is a glove box that's open through a screen.
Mm-hmm.
That is very silly.
Yeah. Those aren't really the questions. Optional extras. It's like I haven't. I mean, you really had a very good one with the openometer. That is supremely stupid. I used to think the passenger screens were really stupid until I found this one use for the one with the Taycan, and now I think it's a little less stupid. But they're kind of dumb.
This isn't an option, but the Lotus Elettre, the cup holders in the center console could be hidden, meaning like you could depress it. It'd be a flat space, and then you press down on this velvet covered thing, and it just descends it like a nuclear missile silo, and now your cup holder's there. And then you press again, and it rises back up to fill the gap.
I mean,
I don't know why.
It's a beautiful piece of design.
It worked nice, but it was like who
seems like
very
a lot.
strange. Yeah,
it seems like a lot. I don't know if I've seen any other
useless options.
I don't know.
I mean, wings on really slow cars.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have another one past that. That's useless options. I mean, if I think of another one, I'll come back. Dicky Tickets has an '08 RS4. Good choice. Considering swapping to a GR Corolla, interested in some track days and more fun weekend drives. I mean, thoughts related to fun and driving dynamics. I mean, the Corolla is going to be much sharper. You're going to want to beat on it more. The RS4 is a road trip car. It's good for open sweepers.
It's a GT car.
It is. If you're on a track day, you're going to have more fun in the Corolla for sure. It may feel like a step back in refinement. It doesn't have lumbar support, things like that.
It won't look as special when you get inside it, in my opinion. But I think dynamically, I feel like it feels more even. You go around a corner, you feel like the weight is being pulled from the front and rear 50%, whereas in the RS4, it's very nose heavy. I think that will reveal itself pretty well, and it's probably going to feel a lot lighter.
Yeah, like it's really hard to make an RS4 oversteer, but it's not so hard to do that in a GR Corolla. Engine Nerd wants my head shaving routine. I use the Brio Beardscape to buzz my whole head and face, and then in the shower, I do full head shaving cream. I let it mellow for like a minute and a half. It's got to sit, and then I shave the top first because that's the thinnest, wispiest bit of hair, and then I shave the sides, and then I shave the lower bits, and I work my way from top to bottom. And I have one mirror in the shower. I do not need a rear mirror.
Now, why do you do wispy first? Because my brain thinks you'd want to use the sharp blade, fresh blade.
I use a fresh blade every time I
trunks.
shave.
Okay.
And the reason is I want the shaving cream to penetrate that thicker hair a little more.
That makes sense.
There's not much resistance up top. A lot of resistance in this area. So I want an extra minute or two of shaving cream penetration. And with a new blade every time, that's sharp enough to get the job done.
True.
Yeah. And then I use Kiehl's aftershave, oil-free. Real nice. It's real good. I recommend it. It's very aerodynamic up there. Once you have a shaved head, it's really a delight.
Yeah, you gain 2/10 when you do that.
My name is Lane, but I identify as Street. That's funny.
That's a good one.
I learned how to drive in a 1982 Volkswagen Transporter that was double cab that was used by the U.S. military in Europe. What non-exotic or historically significant car would you bring to a car show to get the most attention? That's a fun one. Fire trucks would be a good one. A Sherp. I'd roll up in a Sherp, dirty, just park on somebody's roof.
They had those in, I just watched the new Aliens movie.
They had Sherps?
Yep.
Yeah. You roll up to a Cars and Coffee in a Sherp.
Yeah, that's very unique.
You're going to have some friends by the end of the day.
I feel like the ramp truck used to get attention, but it's seen too frequently now.
I mean, wait. I'm going to be rolling up in an aircraft engine Myers-Manx in a couple months. You know, things with airplane engines are good. Zach's high-centered STI. Is there a wait? Do you think there's a chance that the popularity of station wagons in America will ever increase? If not, do you think if Volkswagen brought the Golf R wagon to the States, would that help?
No,
and no. The Golf R wagon stinks. I'm going to say it. It stinks. The proportions are not good.
Not as good as
looks weird.
Yeah.
It's not a good-looking vehicle. I
agree with you.
Yeah.
The hatch is perfectly fine.
Christian Larson just watched To Live and Die in L.A. Great movie, great car chase, and made me wonder, what are your favorite movies where L.A. is central to the film like a second character? There's a bunch. There's so
Heat
many.
is very good. Fast and Furious kind of works.
Fast and Furious totally works.
What's the movie with Steve Martin in L.A.? L.A. Story? That's very funny. There's a lot of good, funny jokes in there.
Falling Down?
That's true.
Falling Down is fabulous.
I want to rewatch that, actually.
Yeah, we should rewatch it. I mean, Demolition Man, the San Angeles Metroplex, although it was filmed in Irvine.
Right.
Let's see. Pulp Fiction.
Oh, that's true.
100% Pulp Fiction.
Break. No. Man, that doesn't really matter.
Speed.
I'm realizing there's a lot of action
Speed.
movies. Oh, Speed.
Yeah.
Like they jump the highway that was under construction and get on the air runway.
The Lincoln Lawyer.
Point.
Yeah, the entire, Speed was just like they had this highway. They had finished the 105, and it's like, well, what would you do if you had 20 miles of highway that hadn't opened yet? Like Hollywood? Like, let's fucking go, baby.
There's got to be a liaison one way or another that's like, this thing's under construction, or this building's falling down. What do you want to do with it?
Yeah.
Do with it? Demo it or something. Yeah.
Beverly Hills Cop, 1, 2, and
That's
3.
True. Yeah, a lot of
True
rodeo
Beverly
stuff.
Hills. It's fucking DL car guy movie. True
Die
Beverly
Hard
Hills.
was shot in LA, but it's just one building, so it's not as like LA centric.
Airheads.
I forgot that was LA. Yeah. Encino Man.
Dude, Bill and Ted's. He loves San Dimas. LA is very central to Bill and Ted's, for sure. Any Pauly Shore movie, Encino Man, basically.
Hollywoodland. What was it called?
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, like all Quentin Tarantino movies.
Good point.
Good question, though. Throw some D's on it. Top 3 race car liveries, and what would you put on your personal
I reduced
car?
the number from 10 D's because it was a little long.
10.
Top 10
Fuck out of
liveries.
here, baby.
You know what I really like right now is it's like AO Racing. They have the green, like Godzilla. It's a green dinosaur livery on their 911 GT3 car.
That's
It looks
fun.
very cool. Big teeth in the front, and they're pretty fast. I'll pull up a photo.
I like the old Apple computer one from the 80s. I like the dark Interscope one, also from the 80s. Both of these are Porsche 935s. I like the Pink Pig Butcher.
That was a good one.
I like the Porsche Psychedelic, the long tail. The one we have a model in the
that
lounge.
one's also very cool.
That one is one of my favorites. I would put Psychedelic long tail on my own car. I think that would be a pretty fun.
The BMW like streaking colors race livery.
Oh,
that
that's
was awesome.
is it Frank Stella? I think that might be Frank Stella's art car, and it is incredibly sick. Whatever the BMW M1 Pro car that raced at Le Mans, that was the art car. I think it was the Warhol car.
Not the M stripe colors.
No.
Okay.
Did you find was it the Frank Stella BMW art car? John Player Special is great.
Frank Stella did a couple of them.
The Liechtenstein is great. Dude, there's so many so many good race liveries. What race livery would you not want on your car?
Golf. I don't care.
It's corny.
It's like putting. It's a gas company, right? So that's all it really is. It's just representing the company, and I think the cars did well. But when I see it on other cars that are not race cars, I go, it just doesn't look that good to me.
Yeah.
So,
you know what we got in storage is a Calsonic Skyline.
Oh yeah,
and it's fucking. So,
that's a very simple livery. It's not like a pretty livery. But that car is awesome.
The livery doesn't mean anything. No. It's just what the car represents. It's so important.
You know what I don't like? When BMW brought back the art car livery like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And remember, it was white and it had like a dot on one side and a number. And
it was lame.
There was a huge fall off.
But in general, I'm so supportive of art car livery.
Yeah.
Everybody should do it. Patrick. Is driving in the U.S. too easy, leading to more distracted drivers? I moved to Germany 11 months ago, and between the smaller roads and ever-changing speed limits, I find myself more engaged. Well, the U.S. is so big, dude. The U.S. is huge. What does driving in the U.S. mean? If it means driving on an 8-lane freeway in the suburb of Houston, or does it mean driving in a windy back road in Greenwich, Connecticut?
True.
Does it mean driving a beautiful 2-lane in Vermont? You know, it's like driving in the U.S. You know, interestingly, when I went on that launch I talk about all the time, we drove the same car in Germany and then in America. And when we drove it across Germany, like, yes, driving in Germany was objectively better. The variable speed limits were there. The tarmac was great. Like, fucking trucks stayed to the right. Like, that was great. Yeah. But what was interesting was, compared to driving in America, where I just drove like I would normally drive, but like, rather than being like 100K for 30 minutes, when I was varying my speed ever so slightly, when I was sort of slowly moving through traffic as I normally do, you know, I usually drive just like a little faster than the speed of normal traffic, and I'll slowly make my way through, which is not something I did in Europe. I found myself at the end of like a 3-hour drive more engaged, and I was sleepier in Europe, having to hold 100K for that amount of time, even though I will totally admit it was objectively better for everybody and probably safer to do it the way they were doing it in Europe.
I bet you would find if you lived there that would diminish over time, because I know, like, when I go to Europe, I'm very, like Spain, you drive on the right side of the road, it's basically the same, but I'm very focused because I'm in a different environment and things are slightly different, so I'm paying much more attention to everything.
Sure.
So even if I just cruise on the highway, I'm still a little. Remember when we were in England and we were driving the Lotus, and you and I both were listening to music. It was like day 3, and I got started to get a little comfortable and sing along with the song, and then I missed a turn right away. I was like, oh, I turned off 5% of my brain and I fucked something up.
Right.
So I think it's more engaging if there, like he said, there's more variation. So if the speed limit's changing, if the terrain is changing, whereas in America you can drive across Texas for 2 straight days at 80 miles per hour, and it's like you barely turn the steering wheel ever. So there's just less to do sometimes.
Yeah. Keel and toe. How does the Gunther Turbo compare to the Roof CTR Anniversary?
Oh.
They're different experiences. They really are.
The roof steering is lighter.
Yeah.
It feels like a
much narrower front tires.
It's a narrow car overall.
Well, the roof they cut down the, as Freeman talked about, right? They widened sort of from the center. Mm-hmm. Whereas the roof, they keep the 993 cockpit and they just widen the axles out.
You mean with the Gunther?
Sorry, excuse me.
With the Gunther,
the Gunther, they pull
the Gunther's all fender.
Yeah.
And the roof is roof.
Yeah.
Right.
So the roof, to me, feels lighter, and the engine feels more like a like a 996 engine. Like it's a water-cooled engine, right? So it feels like snappier in the way that the water-cooled engines feel. The roof was a little more playful. The Gunther is just extremely hardcore.
Yeah.
Like it's just so hardcore.
Right. The Gunther feels more like race car for street.
Yeah.
And I feel like the roof feels more like street car that's had a lot of power added to it in performance.
Yeah. It's the Gunther is more of a workout for sure. And I'm not sure I'd have felt comfortable like sliding it the way that I was able to after 5 minutes be like, let's just
Yeah,
do
that's true. I mean, we're in a closed location with the roof.
But still, I don't think I would have done that in the Gunther. I don't think I would have even tried.
I would have tried, but only if it was safe. I think I would road trip the roof. I don't think I would road trip the Gunther because, like we said in the video, it's so loud in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really tiring.
Yeah,
but
you
it's
could
exciting.
use the roof as a pretty regular car.
Yes.
That would be tough to do in the Gunther.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's very overwhelming all the time. Whereas you could probably cruise around pretty low key in the roof if you wanted to. Yeah, but they're so different.
Very.
They're just like it's cool that you can sort of choose that sub adventure within the world of these sort of resto modded Porsches, even though the CTR is a carbon tub and not a resto.
I don't know if this will work, but maybe you'll understand. I feel like the roof is like going to see Muse, and the Gunther is like you're going to see System of a Down, or like something just a little harder, a lot louder.
Sure. Timbo says, thoughts on the new EV Dodge Charger. I went out to a thing where Dodge invited some journalists to dinner like a week and a half ago at Father's office. And Vin was there, Glucker was there, some other people were there, and the CEO of Dodge was there, Matt Mick something. He was very nice.
Matt McAleer.
Yes, thank you. He was very cool, and he's like pretty young dude. Like,
yep.
Yeah. And I get what they're doing. I really do want to try an electric charger, and actually, I got to follow up with them to drive one. But I'm not sure who wants big 2-door electric GTs right now. I'm not really sure who the customer is for that.
Yeah, it's valid.
And they did the little fake exhaust noise to me. It sounds exactly like the Ioniq 5N's
really?
fake engine. Yeah. I can't believe nobody has said this in a review yet. At least it sounds it's the same sound the Ioniq 5N makes. It's really funny. Like it doesn't sound like a muscle car at all.
It's that more like sounds like a cat. I remember the Ioniq 5 where it was like wow.
Yeah. That's it. It's like a cat. Yeah. No, it's not like a cat. It's like a voiceover actor's impression of a cat through auto-tune.
They bought the sound from Thundercats, and then they just like piped that in because it was like $1 to buy.
Yeah. Dildo. There's a space in there. What non-car related job did you have in the past that you enjoyed? I had the best job in the world, and I gave it up to do this one. Scuba diving instructor in the Caribbean. This is the best job in the world.
Yeah, that's like what Monty does now. I get
no
it.
stress. No money, but no fucking stress.
No stress, though? You had to be worried about people dying?
Nah.
It was always fine.
It was fine.
Okay.
It's always fine. I had to rescue a couple people, though.
Right.
But then I did. It was fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on occasion stressful. But most
I mean,
of the
it's
time
like
pretty chill.
mildly dangerous. It's not as dangerous as racetracks
That's
or
good, yeah.
half the other shit we do. Mm-hmm. And it was like just girls in bikinis and fucking tropical fish. What's not to love?
It's like a job that I think if the job is something you do once you retire, it's probably a pretty cool job. Like that's something
I
you
would
can
go
do
back
after.
to that.
Right,
Yeah, I'd go back
exactly.
to that. Yeah.
I would not go back to waiting tables. even
Yeah,
though it was
me and
mostly
Marty are
fun.
going to be like fucking Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins at the end of Shawshank. He's going to be
See what nail.
He's going to be chiseling some boat, and I'm going to be like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm here with the money."
Yeah, exactly.
Chris N. Recommendations for attending a NASCAR event. Looking to go with a few friends to Talladega for a bachelor party. Do not go to any race in which you care about seeing the race.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean it won't be a good time. Get an RV.
Yes.
Get in the infield.
I think that's the move,
You need
right?
a home base.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to have to spend a lot of money to get like a box seat or something. having the ability to go inside, especially when the race is 6 hours long, and you're sitting in the bleachers in the sun, you're just going to get cooked.
Yeah.
Being able to go inside. And then you're part of the nighttime party, which I'm sure is a thing.
That's exactly right. T-Bone Mendez looking for a sporty GT coupe to go along with my Range Rover as a nice weather daily. $50K budget, reasonable maintenance intervals, sound being the most important factor. Front runners, F-Type AMG GT, GT350, E63 M6 Coupe. Missing any good candidates? Can you get an LC 500?
Can you?
I don't know.
For 50?
If you can get an LC 500 in that range, it should be right up there with the F-Type and the AMG GT.
And it will probably retain its value better than everything on that list except for the GT350.
Probably. They have a floor.
Yeah.
A high
People
floor.
like them.
Yeah, and they didn't make enough.
And they don't break.
Yeah. So AMG GT, I wouldn't get a base GT. I'd look if you're not going to get into a C. The one you really want is the C.
Yeah.
You're not going to get into a C. You might be able to get into an S. But there is a difference.
They just did an article on Intercooler about that. The S's are pretty cheap.
Are they?
I mean, they're cheap over there. They're probably cheap here too.
Yeah.
So,
if you can get into an S, it's worth your money. The F-Types, the move is the V6S manual coupe. That's the best one. The V8s are really stiff. They're loud, but they're stiff.
Yeah, they sound good. But I also don't think the interior on the F-Type is aged the way. Like the AMG GT interior still looks good and new to me.
Yeah, true.
And then
As would an
GT350 is just
LC500.
special. Yeah, totally.
True. Aiden Squires says, two more. Aiden and Nathan, and then we're going to call it. We'll save the rest for the next show. This isn't the fault of car reviewers, but it seems like most car reviews nowadays are only for top trim models where the MSRP can be $40K, but the price as tested is $85K. Obviously, car makers want to show off their top models, but it feels like it can make reviews biased without experience in the base model. Sometimes it's important to know what you don't get in a car versus the range-topping model. I totally understand your point. And if you had, a big outlet and a bunch of people and the juice to ask, Ford to send you 3 versions of the same car so you could really experience it, I mean, that would be great. You gotta see the manufacturer's side of why they would want to send journalists the top trims. I mean, not only is it the nicest version of the car, but it has options that you can then go describe how they work and what they do.
Right.
We do occasionally get base model cars. I mean, the 991.2 Turbo S I drove had a fucking price of like $102,000. The only fucking option on it was sport exhaust. It had no other options. That was pretty cool. We drove the 991.2 Carrera T, had like very few options on it. So I totally understand what you're saying. And oftentimes, unless there is a very specific feature, for instance, with Taycan or Panamera, if we wanted to test the hydraulic suspension or test a car that has the rear steer, we could say, specifically, can I get one with this? Or specifically, can I get one that's a manual or an automatic? Or specifically, can I get one that's not white or black for the center card photo? But it's very rare that we can say, I want an AMG GT, but I want a stripper one with no options, because they often won't really exist.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes magazines get those, but it's also pretty rare to have those press cars around.
If there's ever one with no options, it's usually because it's going to like Motor Trend and they're going to weigh it. It's going to be like, yes, there is one variant of this car that's under 3,000 pounds, but it's $400,000 and won't have air conditioning. Okay, this is a long one, but we're going to end on it. One of the strangest criticisms levied against EVs, this is from Nathan Reynolds, is that it's all artificial induced demand predicated on government incentives and then pushing it on the consumers. For decades, the government has essentially subsidized the production of trucks and SUVs via various taxes, lenient safety and emission standards for light trucks, and tax incentives and write-offs. I agree. Yet customers fall for it under the guise of the perceived advantage of them, safety, utility space, etc. Why do you think this is? Why are we so quick to call out the artificial demand but so accepting of trucks and SUVs, despite the latter having a larger environmental and societal impact?
Well, talking points get put forward and get injected. I'm not trying to be like a conspiracy theorist, but like if the story starts somewhere, either an article or a news story or something, that stuff oftentimes has the genesis of that is a PR campaign. And if they want to campaign against EVs or against the administration that is supporting EVs, they will look at what stories might get people's attention. And calling out, quote, artificial demand and subsidies is a way to demonize your opposition. And they're not going to – if a news story comes out saying people are really pissed off about subsidizing these EV companies, they're not going to mention in the same story, by the way, we also do that for trucks and other things.
Well, and the way they subsidize them is incredibly subtle.
Very true.
It's very subtle.
There's no check.
Yeah, it's not a $7,500 tax credit, on the hood to come buy one of these things. And also there's Section 179 and there's all these other stuff, but I think it's a little too late for trucks and SUVs now. Meaning, in the beginning, it was you're going to be rugged and you're a utility, and then it was we made them drive like cars, and now they're also fast and now and also it was like you're higher so you can see over cars, but then everyone got the same one, so now it's like even bigger, and we're in sort of escalating size war and height war and all that kind of stuff, capability, horsepower, etc. There's so much profit in trucks and SUVs versus small cars and sedans, and particularly versus EVs. EVs lose OEMs money right now.
True.
And SUVs and trucks make them a huge amount of profit. So it is to their benefit to maximally demonize EVs so they don't have to make them, and maximally market trucks, which is where their highest profit margin is. So all of the, you're showing a family going camping in their Volkswagen Tiguan, even though like no one's really going camping in it. They're really just driving it around the same thing they're doing in the other car.
Right.
And so there's the American ruggedness. There's the I want a utility car, but that also drives a car, and it handles well enough. It has good enough fuel economy. You're not thinking about the fact that extra weight is going to be 10% worse than the thing you hit and whatever. But the manufacturers and their representative lobbies they want to push the American people, incentivize them to buy the thing that is most profitable.
Right.
And to demonize the thing that is the least profitable.
The root of the answer is always who benefits from the story that's out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good question, though, Nathan. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody, our patrons particularly. Of course, if you want to get your question in there, patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast is how you do it. And we will see all of you next week.